Sometimes things just kind of sneak up on you. I couldn't sleep one night and I was going through my YouTube recommendations when I stumbled upon this video.
Alright, nice. Okay, Bombards. Alright, let's go and do character gains more experience.
I can't speak as to why I clicked on it. I'm somewhat aware of Asmongold, but since I don't spend too much time on Twitch, I'm not very familiar with him, even though I would say that his tier list videos on soda flavors and fast food chains are what I consider to be just peak entertainment.
And I'm going to tell you guys what the best hamburgers are, and I want everybody to understand this, okay? My opinion on this is not an opinion. This is a fact.
But I watched this video and I found myself hooked. The content creator was definitely entertaining, but the content itself really just kind of planted itself in my subconscious. And after clicking on a few other videos about Vampire Survivors, I found myself in this situation where I just needed to play this for myself. I love arcade-style games. I love bullet hell games. I love arena-style twin-stick shooters like Geometry Wars and Robotron, and I lost a decent chunk of time to Binding of Isaac back in the day. So Vampire Survivors, it just kind of ticked a whole lot of boxes for me all at once. And then there's just the price. Not to mention there was a Mac port for convenience sake, as I do all my editing on a Mac, so hey, go me. So it was almost like the universe was giving me nothing but green lights to play this game. Vampire Survivors was developed by one person, Luca Galante, and with the help of other artists brought to life, and with the game currently in early access, it has been receiving a consistent feed of updates. So right away it joins the ranks of things like Five Nights at Freddy's, Gunpoint, and Papers, Please, in that all of those games were developed by one person and able to penetrate the larger conversation on video games. Luca Galante stated in an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun that they started the project during the pandemic. It should be stated that Luca is Italian, and the region was hit particularly hard in the beginning of the outbreak. So they started this project as a way to deal with boredom and to give themselves something to play during the weekend. And I would have to say that Luca succeeded. Vampire Survivors is a deceptively simple game. You boot it up and you are met with this. It doesn't take more than a glance to gather where this game draws its influences from. It's clearly early Castlevania, with the first character being a Belmont in everything but name, and as pickups and enemies begin to fall in view, games like Gauntlet and Smash TV come to mind. The rules are simple: survive as long as you can, and combat couldn't be easier to learn. Your character auto-attacks at regular intervals, so the core gameplay revolves around moving your character into position to avoid oncoming damage and line up your shots. Defeated enemies drop crystals, which act as your experience, and collecting enough of them results in a level up. Leveling up is where this game starts to show its roguelike influences to something like Binding of Isaac or FTL, but in truth, with this game always offering at least 3 upgrades per level up, it functions more like an efficiency test. You see, another core component to this game is the timer located at the top of the screen, and the rate of enemies appearing and the introduction of more powerful enemies is tied to predetermined intervals. The best I could figure, it seemed like every 5 minutes or so the game would introduce a new DPS check. So if the skill in this game comes from being able to maneuver around enemies in order to not get got, the strategic draw of this game comes from choosing which items you think will complement your character in order to survive more efficiently. Early choices are obvious. The starting weapon only attacks horizontally, making it so that you have to circle strafe around enemies to line up your shots. So an item like the magic wand that targets nearby enemies and homes in on them for a single hit, that definitely complements the whip. And better yet, there's something like garlic that offers a protective barrier that allows for you to charge into the weakest enemies for great early experience. There are also accessories like the bracer, which adds to projectile speed, making something like the magic wand that much more potent. And to add to this level strategy, every weapon can be leveled up to level 8, gaining things like rate of fire, area of effect, cooldown bonuses along the way. And accessories go to level 5, making their effects more and more pronounced. In the early game, everything feels like a trade-off. Choosing one upgrade means omitting another, and with level ups providing 3 random choices, sometimes you find yourself in situations where none of these options truly feel like they could help. But the opposite could be just as true, and you can get 3, and it's hard to know which one you want. This trade-off and anticipation of each next level up makes the game instantly exciting. And then the final mechanic in the early game is that of boss monsters. Every few minutes, a unique sprite will wander into the field, being larger or spotting an obvious aura that tells you this is a boss. They usually act as the game's first real DPS check, and if you've been fortunate in your upgrades or picked up things that complement each other well, then the boss should drop without too much trouble. However, if you've had bad luck or planned poorly, that's where the snowball effect starts rolling and it starts to become hard to recover. Killing one of these bosses drops a chest, which upgrades one of your pieces of equipment at random. There's also another bit of RNG where sometimes the chest can upgrade not just one, but up to 3, and in some rare occasions, 5 pieces of equipment at the same time. And as an added piece of strategy, any weapon that you've upgraded to level 8 has a chance to upgrade to an evolved form if you're carrying its corresponding accessory. All these mechanics work together in such a way that you're always thinking about the next move. Am I doing enough damage? What works well with what I already have? Am I doing enough damage? Is this upgrade worth getting if I have to close myself off to another one? And finally, am I doing enough damage? The game starts off easy enough, but quickly becomes unrelenting, and while you're getting your bearings and just learning the way this game functions, you're gonna die. A lot. But like any roguelike worth your time, progress is not only measured by each run, but through persistent unlocks. In this game, it's unlockable characters, new weapons and items, and finally permanent upgrades that are purchasable in the gold shop between runs. Each unlock gives you a new way to play the game or makes the game slightly easier, eventually allowing for you to be able to complete a run. And when you do, you are met with an amazing sort of cruel joke. At the end of your 30-minute gauntlet, Death himself comes for you, and no matter how much damage you're putting out or how many revives you might have earned yourself, you're gonna die. Maybe you can stave him off for a minute or so, but it's inevitable. The game ends when you die. And while I may now have done a thorough breakdown of the mechanics of this game, I may not have properly encapsulated what exactly about it makes it stand out. So it's pretty simple. The game is fun, it's addictive, the music is killer, and every little unlock that you earn makes it so that you feel like you're getting a further peek behind the curtain. The amount of unlockable characters, power-ups, weapons, stages, and even achievements is actually staggering. And hitting new damage thresholds is a reward in and of itself, considering how each run can feel so far removed from your humble beginnings. Seriously, the first time you get the right items and the run starts to go your way, there's just nothing like it. Considering that the early hours of this game are slow and difficult, being able to run headfirst into enemies as a god, collecting level up after level up, it's insane. Watching this game go from something that at times could feel like a slog to basically the end of Super Metroid is great fun, and getting these runs where the screen is literally melting, it's a hard feeling to discount. The game is constantly being patched too, so there always seems to be something new to look forward to, and new secrets seemingly around every corner. It's hard not to keep the size of the team and the price of the game in your mind the whole time this title is running. It's pretty wild considering that in an era of multi-million-dollar budgets and battle passes, special editions and add-on content, multi-studio development, and critically successful new franchises not making their publisher enough money and resulting in canceled titles, Vampire Survivors gets to exist outside of all of that, and for that alone, it's worthwhile. But having said all that, the fun can feel a bit limited after a while. Melting hundreds of enemies all the while spell effects fill the screen is rad, even if it did cause me a couple headaches. This game does have a pretty strong seizure warning upon boot up, so if that concerns you, just pay attention to it. But as more and more of the unlocks are earned, the challenge just starts to shrink. After you've unlocked a certain amount of things in this game, your character is stronger, faster, gains more experience, casts bigger spells, and after a while, certain power-ups allow for you to re-roll the items that you get from leveling up. So where there used to be this tension of hoping to get the right item when you leveled up, you can now re-roll if you don't like what you've got. So at this point, the game stops being about those split-second decisions and more about assembling the perfect loadout. This isn't bad at first. In fact, the first couple times you do it, you feel super powerful, but since the pool of items could never rival something like Binding of Isaac, at least at this point, the game is still being developed, you just never have to end up with a busted build as long as you've unlocked the correct power-ups. Where there was once that tension of hoping for things to go just your way, every run becomes kind of samey once you know the ins and outs and have the right power-ups, and I can confidently say that it's pretty unlikely that I will ever lose a run again at this point. It should be said that you can turn off all these power-ups. You can refund them, so you don't have to use them. But let's be honest, once you've tasted true power, do you really want to kneecap yourself just to prove a point? Vampire Survivors is rad, and I got dozens of hours of fun out of it. And considering the fact that it's constantly being updated, I mean, seriously, 2 new characters, a level, music, and updated visuals came out just this last month. So there really doesn't seem to be anywhere for this game to go but up. I'm a fan of this game, and I'm going to be keeping an eye on the title. I don't usually mess around with this early access stuff because I'm old, and this is just not how games were made back in my day, but I understand that times are changing. But for $2.99, yeah, seriously, just skip a snack one day and try this one out. I really think it's worth your time. If you made it to the end of the video, I wanted to thank you for watching this far. And as a quick bit of housekeeping, please consider subscribing if you're not already. I did this review on a smaller game, mostly as a result of I'm working on a much larger video that's coming out soon, and I have a couple of more high-profile games in the pipeline. I also have some big changes coming to the channel, and they're going to change what I do on here. So in the meantime, please feel free to comment below or drop a like. Anything like that would help my channel immensely. So thank you in advance, and I'll see you in the next video.